All right, I want to do some of the connected scroll bars here. And the two of them, one is in program panel, and it's this scroll bar down here, which is named scroll 2. There is no scroll 1, by the way. So scroll 2, and that's in the tiles panel. The other one over here is in the edit panel, and it's this one, which is called scroll. They're really the same. When you move this one, you're moving the other one, and vice versa. When you move this, the contents of the media files in the entry boxes change. The media files are stored in an array that's by default 10,000 elements long. It can be raised. And what you're looking at the beginning when your program starts up, you're looking at element 0, 1, 2, 3, up through element 11. When you move this down, you're moving to further elements in the array. So if I pull this down, the starting point here will be, say, 100. And it'll be 100, 101, 102, down through 111. Likewise, here on the tiles, you're seeing a snapshot at a starting point. Starting point initially is 0, but if you drag this to the right, the starting point will be something different. So when you see these things changing, it's because you're only seeing 12 elements from the array. All right. How does let's get up the program itself, get it up and see what it looks like when it's running. To refresh our memories, there we go. And there I'm dragging it down, and you're seeing these things change. Okay, I'm dragging it down by holding down the left button on the mouse and moving the mouse. Okay, this is a classic drag. You see the arrow moving and so forth. That's left button down, drag. Likewise, if I go over here, this one goes to the right. The leftmost is the lowest, and the rightmost, I just drag it across. If I drag this one all the way down and I go back to edit, you see edit's been moved all the way down to the end, to the last page. So they are connected. Whatever I do here is reflected there. All right, we can. All right, and one more thing. That is altering the scroll bar. That's dragging the slider on the scroll bar. There's another way of doing it, and that is an actual scroll signal. Now, you see the mouse is in the scroll bar. It doesn't have to be on the top one. It just has to be in the scroll bar. And if I hit the roller on the mouse, you'll see it does it too. It goes page by page now. I did it differently. You may be able to hear the roller clicking. I'm not holding down any buttons. I'm simply moving the roller. And likewise, over here, when I move the roller, it jumps back and forth. Okay, that's a signal. That's a scroll signal. It's actually coming from the desktop. That's the scroll signal. All right, let's go back and look at this again. I don't want to be in switcher. I want to be in edit. I want to get back to the scroll. It's vertical. There's no adjustment. There's one built in. If you want to put your own in, you can. Otherwise, it's got one already in there. Packing, where its location. Common, it's got a tooltip. This color thing is debris, should be deleted. It's got a height, okay, which is how tall it is. The widget name, actually the name of the label in gtk.css, which has the CSS code to paint it, is sgr-slider. I didn't like the slightly darker gray on slightly lighter gray that you can see is typical of GTK. I'm circling it over here. That's a standard GTK slider. I don't like it. I can't see it. So I went in and made my own. It's got a circular slider, and it's got a blue background. And you can go in there and fill with it if you want, if you want other colors. Or you can go back to the default. All right, we've got all that. Next we go to signals. We got two signals. We got value changed, and we've got scroll event. The name of the widget is scroll. Value changed. And you see the actual widget here is called a GTK scroll bar over here. Notice it says GTK scroll bar. Value changed is when you drag the slider. When you drag the slider, it changes the value that's being stored in the slider, in the internal adjustment, or if you want to put your own adjustment in there, in your adjustment. The value is being changed by dragging the slider. If you if you use the mouse roller, you're going to get a scroll event sent. The mouse roller is a scroll event. They sound like they're the same, and they really are similar, but they're not. A scroll event is the mouse roller. Scroll event in and of itself has no effect on the scroll bar. It's just a GDK signal. It's floating around. What are you going to do with it? Well, what I'm going to do with it is change the value on the slider and move the slider. But there's two of them. I get them backwards. I'm sorry if I do in this video, but this one here, the scroll event, is when you move the roller. The other one is when you somehow change the value stored in the scroll bar. There's more than one way of changing it. Obviously, the other one is to drag it. That changes it. But internally, you can change it by actually altering the value with a function, a set value function. That's an alteration. That's a value change. That'll trigger the event. The events don't have to be triggered by external activities. They can be triggered internally, too. All right. You will notice that value changed is not part of GTK scroll bar. And if you go looking it up, you're not going to find it. It's part of GTK range. They make it tricky. Okay, GTK range. Okay, this is the new documentation. It's hopefully getting better. It's at the moment kind of confusing. All right, we've got this is the class called scroll bar. I'm calling everything classes now, but be mindful this is all actually C programming. But nonetheless, this is the way they've organized it. Scroll bars down here. A scroll bar is a range. A range is a widget. A widget is, I don't know what these guys up here are, but a widget is the most common base element here. The value changed signal goes to GTK range. GTK range is where, so that's the signal up here is value change, and it's part of GTK range. So when you look it up and how to do it, you have to look it up in GTK range. Likewise, over here on the other thing I want to go is down here, scroll event is not part of scroll bar per se, it's part of GTK widget. But since every scroll bar is a widget, just like every scroll bar is a GTK range, you get, where's the screen over here? Yeah, so the widget is here. So we've got signals that are coming into different things. The value change is coming in as a GTK range signal. The other one's coming as a widget signal, which confuses the code a bit. All right, back here, we showed the functions. Here are the two functions. On scroll event. Scroll being the widget name, scroll event being the scroll event, that's the one when you move the mouse roller. Down here, scroll value changed. That's when the value in the scroll bar gets changed by some means, whether it's because you dragged it or because there was a software change. All right, I've put some ones here, and so you'll see when you get a scroll event. I put twos down here, so you'll see when you get a value changed. They won't be in the actual code, but they're there. If you get a scroll event, which is the mouse, if I keep these things straight, you come in and check to see whether it was up or down. And if it was up or down, you check. Begin, by the way, is the current starting point. SP arrow begin is the current starting point in the array, where in the array you are. So it increments it by 12, checks to find out it's not over the edge, clears some things and calls display program buttons. Otherwise, you didn't move it down, you moved it up, which means you subtract, make sure you didn't go negative, and again call display buttons and return true. True means we're done processing this signal. I don't know if there was any other processing was going to be done, but we're done. False would mean the system could have passed this signal on to somebody else who might be waiting in the wings. All right, where does E arrow delta come from? Well, you get the pointer to the scroll bar, entity, widget, and you get a pointer, a GDK pointer, not a GTK pointer, a GDK pointer, and that's a pointer to the event, the GDK event, the scroll event, and it's got information about the scroll that just took place. How do you find out where it is? Again, you go back to the documentation, and if you look it up, you eventually can find GDK scroll. It's a structure, and these are the contents of the structure. Okay, and they describe them down here. This got errors in here. See, like it says send event. The NT actually belongs at the end of the word event. They didn't leave enough space here, but it tells you something about it. Not perhaps everything, but something. And you can search for it over here, and you'll eventually find GTK event scroll. All right, so that's what's what the E delta Y means. Windows does it differently for some reason. I don't know why. I don't even know where it works in Windows anymore. All right, that's the mouse roller. The mouse roller basically just alters begin, plus or minus, and calls display program buttons, one up or down. Display program buttons, which is over here. This is this code here, by the way, is in common-compiled-code.c. It may move, but that's where it is at the moment. Display program buttons is in program-buttons.c, and these are in the common area, in the common directory. It does a bunch of stuff. This is right at the end of it. I really don't want to look up above there because it probably needs to be proved anyway. But at the very end, after it's repainted the screen, that's the purpose of this function. It's repainting the screens. It's changing the entry boxes. It's changing the tiles. It hits these GTK range set value, and it sets it to be sets the range of scroll, in other words, the value it's storing, to be begin. SP arrow begin. In other words, this is the starting point. We've changed the value. So if you did a scroll event, you did display program buttons. You eventually over here got to the point where you changed the internal value in scroll. That generates a signal, scroll value changed. Scroll value changed comes down here, fetches out the value, plays around with it, doesn't really do too much of anything, but it sets begin to it, and then hits display program buttons again. Program buttons comes over here, comes down here, and it finds out it's setting range to the same value it just set it to. That does not trigger a signal. Okay, this one over here doesn't really doesn't do too much per se, but it does generate the signal, or not generate the signal if there's no change actually taking place. So this guy up here, the mouse roller, can generate a call to display program buttons, which can generate a set range value. The set range value actually causes the slider to move. Set range value, I get it here, but one of the side effects is the slider moves. Slider moves to the new position, and I play with that information here. I'm going to look into what I actually did there. All right, that's the first scroll bar. What happened to the second scroll bar? Second scroll bar, same as the first. Here it is. It's called scroll 2. Okay, it's scroll 2. It's horizontal, has its own adjustment, packing, common, uses the same CSS code. You can change that, as I mentioned. Has a tooltip, has a width, doesn't have a height, has a width. It could put a height in there if you want to make it thicker, but probably wouldn't fit then. Signals. On same two signals, a scroll event and value changed. Value change goes to on scroll value change. Wait a minute, it's not on scroll 2? No, it's on scroll. So this widget uses the same code as the other one. So a value change signal will go to that same piece of code, which is okay because it's going to do the same thing. I mean, they do the same thing, and there's nothing in there that's peculiar to one or the other of the widgets. Likewise, down here in the scroll event, it goes to on scroll event. Okay, scroll is the name of the widget. Scroll event is the name of the event. Reuses the same code. Reuses the same code. Okay, and as a result, that's the second line down here, is that it sets whatever begin got changed to, it sets it to be, sets it for scroll 2 as well, which may or may not trigger a scroll value changed. If you're setting it to the value it already has, then it's not a change. If you're setting it to a different value, it is a change. The function will be invoked and the slider will move. All right, let's see if we can actually make it work. Let me pop up another terminal here, and I'll go back up to the top directory, do a make. It's up to date. and say, make it run. Now, where did my, I want these things here. Hopefully I will see those. So when I move this, okay, I'm going to drag the slider. And you see I got 2's. All you see is 2's. Because dragging the slider is a value changed event. You don't see, I mean, you're not even seeing the 2's go by, but there are, every time I do that, you know, I just put a blank line there. Yeah, the 2's are going by. Because those are value changed event, I'm actually holding down the button and dragging the slider. All right, I move the mouse over here and I hit the roller. Okay. All right, now you saw 1's coming down. I actually hit it twice. First time, for some reason, didn't do anything. So the second time, you see the 1's. That means it saw a roller event, the scroll event. Scroll event generated 2 value changed events. There was a value changed event for this scroll bar and a value changed event for this scroll bar. You notice it's no longer on the. Likewise, over here, if I hit the roller on this one, well, that sent it back. Again, there was this in the 1's indicating the indicating that it detected a scroll event, followed by 2 instances of invocations of the other function, indicating that there were 2 value changed events. All right, so that's how it works. That's how they're interconnected. There are other ways of interconnecting. They might be less troublesome, but that's the way I did it. Some of the others will. There's others that are interconnected. The gain one here is interconnected with the preamp setting in audio. But this is as far as I'm going to go right now because it's probably been extremely boring. But nonetheless, sometimes it is.